They might be interested in reading later. And I just Mr. When I walked off. I came in, I thought the talk was over. How are you?
Okay, we are ready to begin with Kristen, and Dr. Rayburn is going to introduce his student.
Well, all right. Well, thank y'all. I'm here to introduce Kristen Carlisle. This summer, I had Kristen come and talk to me about wanting to start a master's project, and we kicked around several ideas and actually started some work on a project. And her talk today is going to be a little bit about what she's headed towards in her proposal and some of her preliminary data that she's gotten so far. So, Kristen, I'm going to let you take it away from there.
Thank you. As Dr. Rayburn said, this summer we met and we began to discuss my thesis research project. I got pretty excited about a project that we had selected. It didn't work out, but he suggested another project. He suggested that I consider looking at the protective effects of chemicals and plant products on acrylamide toxicity. At first, I was less than thrilled about this project, just to be honest. But when I began to do a little bit more research and learn a little bit more about the project, I actually fell in love with this project. This brings me here today to discuss my proposal to determine potential protective effects of L-cysteine, N-acetyl L-cysteine, and plant products on acrylamide toxicity in embryos of Xenopus laevis. Following the announcement of findings that acrylamide, a toxic and potentially cancer-causing chemical that is formed in food production that is over about 120 degrees Celsius, acrylamide toxicity has become a public health concern and food safety concern. Dietary acrylamide is largely derived from heat-induced reactions between certain sugars and amino acid asparagine that occur naturally in the food. You can notice in the image we have the chemical reaction where asparagine reacts with glucose in the cooking process when it's either heat or heat's applied by either frying or baking, and an intermediate base is formed from this. And then once it passes through the stomach and is exposed to the acid in the gastric tract, acrylamide is produced. So acrylamide is actually found in many products such as potato chips, French fries, bread, coffee, and cereals. Yes, unfortunately, Frosted Flakes might not be as great as they claim. So after consumption, acrylamide is absorbed into the circulation and distributed to various organs where it can react with DNA, neurons, hemoglobin, and essential enzymes. Based on available data, food is estimated to make a significant contribution to total exposure of the general public to acrylamide. Average intakes for the general population were estimated to be in the range of 0.3 to 0.8 micrograms of acrylamide intake per kilogram of body weight per day. Within a population, it is anticipated that children will generally have higher intakes than that of the adults based on body weight basis. You can also expect to see other variations among intake. So dietary intake of acrylamide by some consumers may be several times higher than the average. There are many types of toxicity that can be seen with acrylamide. We can say that there are no effects of non-cancer toxicity are expected at levels encountered in the food. However, genotoxicity and carcinogenicity are of concern. Acrylamide may induce heritable damage and is recognized as a major concern in humans based on the ability to induce cancer and heritable mutations in laboratory animals, bringing us to the objective of this project. The main objective of this project is to investigate the effects of L-cysteine, N-acetyl L-cysteine, and plant products, including apple peel, potato pulp, moringa leaf, and goji berries on acrylamide-induced developmental toxicity in the frog embryo teratogenesis assay. You can see images. We have our L-cysteine, we've got our acrylamide, or we've got our N-acetyl L-cysteine, acrylamide, our apple peels, our potato pulp, moringa leaf powder, and our goji berries. So the toxicant in this study is acrylamide, and it was selected because it has carcinogenic effects, mutagenic effects, teratogenic effects, and shows developmental toxicity. The first protectant we're going to look at is L-cysteine. L-cysteine is the precursor to the antioxidant glutathione, which is an important antioxidant in plants, animals, fungi, and some bacteria. Glutathione is capable of preventing damage to important cellular components through the glutathione pathway, as seen in this image. However, this is a very complex pathway. So for the purposes of this talk, we simply need to know that L-cysteine feeds into the pathway and eventually becomes glutathione. So that's pretty much what we need to know for this talk. The third protectant we're going to look at is N-acetyl L-cysteine. N-acetyl L-cysteine is a derivative of cysteine wherein an acetyl group is attached to the nitrogen atom, and this compound is sold as a dietary supplement. It's used as an antidote in cases of acetaminophen overdose, and is making it a viable food additive to protect against effects of acrylamide. Once again, the main thing that we need to know from this is that N-acetyl L-cysteine feeds into the glutathione pathway, which helps with detoxification. So the third protectant we're going to look at is apple peel. Consumption of fruits and vegetables has been shown to be effective in the prevention of chronic disease. These benefits are often attributed to high antioxidant content of some plant foods. Apples are commonly eaten and are large contributors to phenolic compounds in European and North American diets. And the peels of apples in particular are high in phenolics. During applesauce and candied apple manufacture, the antioxidant-rich peels of apples are discarded. So to determine if useful sources of protection on acrylamide toxicity is being wasted, we're going to look at the effects of conventional Red Delicious apple peel, organic Red Delicious apple peel, conventional Gold Delicious apple peel, and organic Gold Delicious apple peel. The fourth protectant we're going to look at is purple potato pulp. Purple potatoes contain high amounts of antioxidants and phytonutrients. They are a healthy food coloring alternative. They help lower and regulate blood pressure, and they may prevent blood clots, and they provide fiber to the diet, and they are great for endurance athletes and ultra runners. With all these benefits, purple potato pulp will also provide an excellent option for a food additive to protect against acrylamide toxicity. So the fifth protectant we are going to look at is moringa leaf. Moringa is a fast-growing, drought-resistant tree. It is native to the southern foothills of the Himalayas in northwest India. It is widely cultivated in tropical and subtropical areas. The leaves are the most nutritious part of the plant and are a significant source of vitamins and other nutrients, including antioxidants. Moringa is growing in popularity as a food source and additive, especially in impoverished nations. The sixth protectant we're going to look at is the goji berry. Goji berries have been used in traditional Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. Some legends have reported that goji berries were eaten by monks in the Himalayan mountains thousands of years ago and steeped in hot water to help aid meditation and obtain greater health, vitality, longevity, energy, and stamina. Goji berries provide high levels of antioxidants and nutrients, improve immune function and fight cancer, promote healthy skin and eyes, help stabilize blood pressure, and detoxify the liver, and supports energy level and mood. So for this research, we're actually going to be using the frog embryo teratogenesis assay Xenopus. This is commonly referred to as FETAX. It is a rapid test for identifying potential developmental and toxicity of chemicals and mixtures that utilizes embryos of Xenopus laevis. So for this research, we are going to be using Xenopus laevis, which is shown in these images right here. We have an albino male, a wild-type female Xenopus laevis. Xenopus laevis literally means strange foot smooth, describing the unique appearance of the feet, the claws, and it's an aquatic frog, and we can note that there are lateral lines that run down the length of the body. It's a model organism. It takes 1 to 2 years to reach sexual maturity, and it is tetraploid. Embryos are easily manipulated, and the developmental stages are very well established, and it has been used in a lot of research to describe the development of the nervous system, and it was also used in early methods of pregnancy testing. You can see in these images we have the embryo development through 96 hours. We have the embryo at day 1 or day 0, and then we have the 24-hour development, 48-hour development, and 96-hour development. So for this research, we inject the frogs, Xenopus laevis, with human chorionic gonadotropin into the dorsal lymph sac, which is located along the lateral lines. We inject with 200 international units, and we place them in a false bottom breeding chamber for them to mate. After we collect the embryos, we remove the jelly coat with a 2% L-cysteine solution. We check for fertilization, and we sort embryos based on quality. This is an image of an ideal embryo that we would want to use. You can see in this image there are numerous embryos that are white, and these are actually not ideal embryos that we would want to use. We actually need to remove these from the dishes to protect the other viable embryos that we can see in the dish. Okay, so for the acrylamide interaction study that I will be doing, we are exposing early stage Xenopus laevis embryos to acrylamide, L-cysteine, and acetyl L-cysteine, plant products, or a mixture of protectant and toxicant. There are going to be 20 embryos per dish, 4 dishes for controls, and 4 dishes for each treatment. After the embryos have been treated, they will be removed to the 24 degrees Celsius incubator, and 24-hour renewal of solutions will occur. At 96 hours, mortality, malformation, and leak measurements are recorded. For the statistical analysis of the study, we'll be using Bonferroni's multiple comparison test to determine significant differences from controls. I've actually had the opportunity so far over the past couple of months to do a little bit of preliminary data on the acrylamide interaction study, and based on this data, we can see that so there has been some success in reducing the number of malformations of acrylamide with these chemicals. So we see our control, we have a fairly low % malformation. With acrylamide, we have 100% malformation. With L-cysteine and N-acetyl L-cysteine, conventional red delicious apple peel, and conventional gold delicious apple peel, we see relatively low % mortality or % malformation, which is what we would expect for the concentrations that we selected. And we can see that with the mixtures where the protectant was combined with the toxicant, we can actually see a decrease in the amount or the effect as far as % malformation in the embryos that were exposed with the protectant and the toxicant as compared to the toxicant alone. So in conclusion, based on malformation data, L-cysteine and N-acetyl L-cysteine protect the embryos against acrylamide-induced malformation to different degrees. Apple pills show potential as protective agents, and statistical analysis is necessary to determine significant differences between the treatments. The study shows viability of the acrylamide interaction study to determine differences in protective effects of chemicals and plant products. For future studies, we would like to develop equivalency factors to rapidly compare protective effects of chemicals and plant products, and we would like to test additional protectants. At this time, I would like to thank the Jacksonville State University Faculty Research Grant and Jacksonville State University Biology Department for their continued support throughout my research project. I would also like to thank my mentor, Dr. James Rayburn, for his support throughout the semester and for always being there in the lab when we need him. And I also like to thank Kayla Davis and Alon, because whenever I'm in the lab for long hours, they're always with me, making sure I have food or whatever else needs to happen. They always take care of me. So at this time, are there any questions? Apple a day keeps the doctor away.
I have a question. Why you are going to test L-cysteine and N-acetyl cysteine, even both of them from the same family?
So N-acetyl L-cysteine and L-cysteine are very similar chemicals. They are both forms of cysteine. However, research has shown that N-acetyl L-cysteine and L-cysteine react differently when the embryos are actually exposed to them. So there's actually some research that supports using both of them. L-cysteine there's a lot more data on L-cysteine, and there's not as much data on N-acetyl L-cysteine, so it'd be nice to compare their ability through the equivalency factors to protect against acrylamide toxicity.
Is there a difference in reaction between albino and wild type? Have you seen anything different between the two?
We haven't specifically looked at that actually. So we're using the embryos up until 96 hours, and at that point they are euthanized. And sometimes you can't really make a call whether or not it is albino versus wild type. At that point, you have to wait until they've reached further immaturity.
If you're meaning about the adults and the eggs after that, the sensitivity to them seems to be about the same.
Yeah, well, I was just meaning like, I was wondering if you were picking, if you would rather use albino eggs or wild type eggs when doing the research.
Okay, so if you're asking that, personally, if it was me, I prefer